I mean, talking of Boris Johnson as we were earlier, and on the big issue of this weekend, Boris Johnson says there's an ideological continuum between the views of Ken Livingstone about Israel, the position of Jeremy Corbyn, and the views of Sadiq Khan, which some people have taken to indicate that Sadiq Khan is anti-Semitic in some form. Now, you were asked about this yesterday on the Today programme, and it was suggested to you that Mr Khan has never been anti-Semitic, and you didn't actually answer completely clearly. Can you be absolutely clear what you say
I don't believe Sadiq Khan is anti-Semitic. I've never, I'm ambiguous. I was ambiguous in my answer because I can't tell you what he's been saying 15, 10, 20 years ago. But I can tell you that he said
no, you can't add that little caveat in the end.
Okay, my answer very clearly then is I don't believe he's anti-Semitic, and I've never suggested he is.
Do you think Boris Johnson's comments were unfortunate? Then you disassociate yourselves with his comments.
I don't think that's what Boris said. Boris is.
I'm quoting directly what he said.
But he didn't describe Sadiq Khan as anti-Semitic.
No, but what was he meaning if he wasn't saying that?
I'll tell you what he's meaning. He described Sadiq Khan, Ken Livingstone, Jeremy Corbyn, John McDonnell as being part of the same envelope, the same package, the same Labour Party. Sadiq Khan nominated Jeremy Corbyn. He has said he would do so again.
That's an obvious thing. This was in relation to him describing a virulent anti-Semitism.
He's been part of the same programme. He is an architect of what has happened to the Labour Party. And the Labour Party today, from the top to the bottom, has got a massive problem
you've accepted,
with anti-Semitism.
anyway, you've accepted, Richard, that Sadiq Khan is and has not been anti-Semitic. The former party chairman, Baroness Vazi, says that Sadiq Khan isn't an acceptable enough Muslim to stand for London Mayor, which Muslim is. And she went on to take Boris Johnson on that. He said, you're better than that, Boris Johnson. So she certainly thinks she knows what he was saying.
Well, look, Boris Johnson said what he said, and I think he's right. There is a continuum there. There is a package of which Sadiq Khan... Of course he's going to wriggle to separate himself from Ken Livingstone today because of the scandal that Livingstone finds himself embroiled in. 2 weeks ago, they were on the same platform.
And you call it a wriggle. You call it a wriggle, but we're making absolutely clear again that you've got no evidence and no one's got anything to suggest that Sadiq Khan in any way shares his views.
I'm not going to accuse Sadiq Khan of being anti-Semitic.
And you accept he acted very quickly as well, didn't he?
I think he had to act very quickly, but I wish he'd acted as quickly last time Ken Livingstone made these kinds of statements, and where Sadiq Khan was one of a tiny number of people who went public defending him.
Well, I think you found, if you're talking about the Jewish newspaper reporter outside City Hall, I think you'll find that Ken Livingstone, in the end, having been initially suspended from office, was reinstated. So there was no... he was on the right side of the argument, wasn't he?
If you're defending what Ken Livingstone said to the newspaper reporter, having described the guy as a Nazi security...
Guess what? I don't have to. I don't have to defend either way, whatever. I only ask you. But let's move on to this thing. Have you found, let's be absolutely clear, have you found at any stage in your research or the research of those people working for you any evidence of Sadiq Khan saying, doing, being extremist in any way? No. Right. He's not extreme. You said that yesterday.
I said that many times.
What's wrong with a lawyer defending unsavoury characters? And these are the words of Sadiq Khan himself. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that first?
Let me make a point. When Jeremy Corbyn was standing for leadership, he was attacked by people like Yvette Cooper for having given legitimacy to people with extreme views, having shared platforms. And her view at the time, very clearly, was that you do not do that. These people should not have any association at all with the Labour Party. That same question has been asked of Sadiq Khan, whose links to extremists... I'm not saying he's extremist.
But why are you citing Yvette Cooper? If you cite Yvette Cooper, you need to tell the viewers that Yvette Cooper, not long ago, described your camera as completely racist.
She did.
So is she right on both accounts?
It puzzles me that she would expect people like me and the newspapers and everyone else who's asking these questions to apply a lower set of standards for Sadiq Khan. I don't understand why that would be the case.
Just quickly again, because we need to kind of unpick it a little bit. Is there anything wrong with a lawyer defending unsavoury characters, or are lawyers or good lawyers just the preserve of the super rich or the powerful?
The links that have been described in relation to Sadiq Khan go very, very far, very, very deep. Some of them
You're not answering the question.
Some of them relate to his work as a lawyer. Some of them relate to his work as a friend. I'm asking about the lawyer first.
Well, come on.
Some of them relate to his work as an MP. But I think for someone who chooses to share a platform with a person who talks about chucking Jews in the sea and drowning them, and then to apologise for that person, and then to apologise for that person, I don't think it'd be appropriate.
The viewers don't know what you're referring to there. There's no point going there. The person that might have said that or might not have said that is not here to refute. I'm asking about Sadiq Khan here on this.
As a lawyer, to choose to represent one of the people involved in 9/11, to choose to stand up and try and overturn the British government's decision.
So you want to do? I've already said it's not appropriate. These people aren't here. These individuals are not here to defend or give any sense of context, which of course people are saying, like Peter Oborne, is exactly what you're trying to do here. It is dog whistling, isn't it? You are sending a message. He says it's repulsive.
There are many, many examples examples of Sadiq Khan having shared platforms with, having given oxygen to, having made apologies for people who have extreme views. That is a legitimate
I've heard those
question.
words before.
That is a legitimate question to ask. The idea that someone standing for Mayor of London with a big security remit should expect those questions not to be asked, and then for that person to try and close down questions by being casual with the use of words like racism,
I'll help you on this one then, just quickly. Just very quickly. Does Sadiq Khan make London less safe? Yes or no?
I think he's got appalling judgment.
Does he make it less safe?
If you are providing platforms and cover and oxygen for people who wish to do this city harm, that is not a clever thing to do.
Right. I know you haven't said it doesn't make it less safe. Does it make him less able to run London's transport system as a junior transport minister before?
There are many other reasons why you can't run.
What about housing? What about housing? Does it make him
there are
not
many other reasons
broadly, for all the most important things about the job, it doesn't make him unsuitable?
There are many reasons why I believe Sadiq Khan is unsuitable for the job.
But there are in the big areas you agree that these issues.
I think his housing policies don't add up, and I'd love to get an opportunity to talk about housing. I think his transport policies, as I've already explained, don't add up. I'd love to be able to talk about that. When we
consider the people with whom you have, some people will say or accuse you of attempting to smear Khan by association with, we find that he actually opposes their views. He's fallen out with them. He has taken a view controversial in the Muslim faith of agreeing to same-sex marriage.
Is it legitimate?
No, I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question,
it's
not
absurd what you're
coming
saying.
back with another one.
You're suggesting that it is not legitimate to ask questions about someone with links to people who wish to do this.
And what happens when he does that?
I'm not suggesting that Sadiq Khan has dodgy views. I think he's opportunistic, and I think he's got appalling judgment, and I think he should never have done the things that he's done. But it is a matter of judgment, not opinion. And I think I am entitled, as is anyone else who's raised these questions, and many people have, to ask those questions. I think what is wrong is to suggest, as Yvette Cooper did, or as Peter Obon did, that there's something racist about asking questions of a person because they're the Muslim candidate.
Let's keep it on judgment then, and the judgment that it's good enough, it's OK for you, and it's OK for Conservative parliamentary candidates to meet people, to hold Muslim forums in South London. Why is it OK for you?
You have to explain your question.
Well, you have met individuals who you cite as being Sadiq Khan's. What's the difference?
I'm sure you've been out on the trail with me. I think you're talking about a selfie with Suleiman Ghani. Is that right?
What's the difference?
You've been out on the trail with me. You saw a clip there. I do hundreds, sometimes thousands of selfies every day. I can't do a CRD check on everyone who does a selfie with me. If that's what you're suggesting.
But the candidate in Tooting
Let me ask you a question. What I would not do is share a platform with someone who is on the wrong side of the ideological battle that we're engaging in. I would share a platform in order to challenge them, but I certainly wouldn't share a platform in any other context. And I certainly wouldn't do a selfie with someone if I knew who they were.
But your Conservative candidate, Conservatives were actively inviting him to come to bring his friends.
Look, I can't answer that. I don't know. It was a public meeting. It was a public meeting that I was invited to speak at. I enjoyed speaking at it. It was about encouraging young Muslim people to get involved in politics. It was a very effective event. In the audience, along with a lot of other people, apparently,
which Sadiq Khan does a lot, and after all, this was his constituency.
And that's good stuff.
Fine, right.
But it's very different to sharing a platform and apologising for someone saying something which is totally abhorrent.
This was his constituency. Okay. What was your excuse? You were going into an area which didn't even have anything to do with.
Because it's not apologising for views or making excuses for views which are totally abhorrent. And clearly there is a difference there. If someone were to say we want to drown Israel's Jews in the sea, I would not say that's flowery talk.
You mentioned that again. And if you were referring to that individual, I mean, the individual concerned has absolutely made clear he's never promoted any violence, any terrorism in any form. Anyway, let's just talk about now. Let's just talk about the wider form.
I'm quoting Louise Ellman, who's a Labour MP, who is as appalled by this as I am.
Let's talk about the wider question here. Just a final thought, really, is that, and it was an FT editorial this week, that, if you are going to lose, would it not be better that you didn't do it with dishonour? And people are going to remember this campaign.
But I reject the premise of what you're saying. It is not dishonourable to question a candidate's judgment. That's what happens in politics, and it's right that those questions, just as my background, the things that I've said, things that I've written in The Ecologist magazine have been pored over by Sadiq Khan's team, and that is fair enough. That's fair enough. If I have said things in the past, which I don't believe I have, but which I ought to explain now, then go for it. That's what happens in politics. There is no dishonour in asking questions about the judgment of other candidates.
Okay.
But the overwhelming emphasis in my campaign has been about my action plan for London.
Okay, thanks so much indeed for being with us today, Zac Goldsmith. You can see a full list of all the candidates standing in the mayoral election on the...